I set up my lemonade stand every Saturday morning on the corner of Maple Drive. Simple fold-out table, pitchers of fresh lemonade, and a hand-painted sign reading Sweet Sunshine, $1 cup. Business was booming. Neighbors loved it. Kids dragged parents over, retirees strolled by for a sip, and even the mailman stopped for a refill. Then Karen arrived with a confiscation order. She marched up in her garden party hat, clipboard in hand. Unauthorized commercial activity on residential property, she declared, pointing at my lemons. I blinked. I live here, I said. I'm in my yard. She sniffed like a bloodhound. This violates Section 6.7, no vending without HOA permit. She stapled a notice to my table. Seized. Remove immediately or face $200 daily fine. That afternoon, I packed up my lemons, squeezed my last pitcher, and trudged indoors. My stomach rumbled. I'd built that stand with my own two hands. How dare she snatch my Saturday joy? I plotted revenge not with fury, but with fruit, and a dash of community flair. By dawn the next day, I printed new flyers on bright orange cardstock. Free community juice bar. Today, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Your driveway, my juices. I slipped one under every door, including Karen's. She dove on hers, eyes narrowing. Free? She muttered. That won't last. At 9 a.m., I borrowed my sister's cargo bike, attached a cooler, and rolled into Karen's driveway, her prize stretch of asphalt she'd once boasted about. I set up my table under her front window, laid out pitchers of lemonade, orange juice, watermelon cooler, and a mystery sunburst surprise blend. I taped a cheerful sign to her garage. Welcome to the community juice bar. Neighbors trickled in. Mrs. Patel arrived with strawberries to donate. The Thompsons brought mint sprigs. Even Mr. Lee shuffled over with a jug of iced tea for mixing. I poured drinks, handed out cups, and watched Karen storm out, robe flapping like a flag in a hurricane. Stop this immediately, she barked. You're trespassing! I smiled, offering her a cup of lemonade. She recoiled, but the sweet scent and curious swirl of mint didn't let her resist. She took a sip and blinked. The rest of the block watched, forks of gossip at the ready. Free juice, I said brightly. No permit needed. This is a community service. I gestured to the crowd. Even the HOA rules say we can gift non-commercial refreshments at private property line. I waved a copy of the covenant. She rifled through it, then glared at my packed table of grateful neighbors. By 11 a.m., the street buzzed like a festival. Kids ran around with juice mustaches. Balloons bobbed at each end of her driveway. I had a volunteer DJ blasting summer tunes. Karen's hibiscus bushes trembled in the breeze. She tried to call the HOA, but the president answered, I thought that was a friendly block event. Looks great, and hung up. Midday, I rolled out flavor of the hour, pineapple ginger lemonade. Neighbors cheered. I posted photos online and tagged the HOA page. Thanks for letting us share sunshine. Comments flooded in. Best idea ever. Karen who? I love my street. An hour later, a new notice appeared on my bike. Fine, unauthorized use of driveway. I unfolded it and pinned it next to my juice sign. Fine? We prefer tip jar. I winked at the onlookers. As the clock struck 2 p.m., I rang my little bell and announced closing time. I poured the last glass into a pitcher labeled reserved for Karen. I pedaled up to her porch and placed it on her steps. She stared at it as I rode off, crowd cheering my exit. Behind me, her driveway sparkled under mid-afternoon sun, taped down flyers, cups lining the curb, and a lingering citrus aroma. Karen looked from her window, clutching that final glass as the block returned to their homes with happy hearts and sticky fingers. My lemonade stand was gone, but the community juice bar was born, right where Karen thought no business should bloom. By next Saturday, word of the free juice bar had spread so fast it felt viral. I arrived at 9 a.m. to find folding tables, coolers, and a line of neighbors stretching down the block, ever so slightly into Karen's prized driveway. I'd added new flavors: cucumber lime refresher, peach hibiscus iced tea, and a citrus mint spritzer kids called Sunny Sparkle. The chalkboard menu stood proud. All free, all yours. Karen appeared in her sun hat at 9:05, glaring like the sun itself had turned on her. She marched over, yanked the community juice bar sign off her garage, and demanded I leave. I held up my permit, signed by the city as a nonprofit neighborhood event. She waved it away. That's HOA property, she insisted. I pointed to the sidewalk. Actually, driveway edge is public right-of-way. You can't claim it. A neighbor behind me cheered. Enraged, Karen tried Plan B. She unplugged the DJ's speaker. Music died mid-beat. Kids paused, mouths full of juice. I simply switched to acoustic mode, grabbed my guitar, and led a sing-along of Lean on Me. Neighbors joined in, cups lifted like microphones. Karen's jaw dropped. She stomped back to her porch, stomped again, then quietly stormed inside. By afternoon, local food trucks circled our block, offering cold brew and tacos. For a tip jar, I'd set up for a neighborhood food bank. Karen peeked through the curtains as people loaded bags of extra juice into their cars for senior center deliveries. Even the HOA president rolled by for a quick splash of cucumber mint, then shot her a thumbs up. At 2 p.m., I announced a surprise juice-off contest. Neighbors split into teams: Team Strawberry Mint, Team Ginger Zest, Team Tropical Twist, each concocting new blends on folding tables. Karen materialized in the judging line like a dragon at dawn, clipboard brandished. But when she tasted Team Strawberry Mint's frosty blend, her lips quivered. "This is actually good," she muttered. She tried Team Ginger Zest and sputtered with delight. Her eyes watered. Later, I'd learn it was from spice, not anger. Sensing a shift, I invited her to judge the final round. She hesitated, then stepped forward, poking at cups with a tiny spoon. With each sip, her scowl softened. By the end, she handed out the blue ribbon gong to Team Tropical Twist. Neighbors erupted in cheers. She stood there, stunned, as people patted her shoulder and handed her a fresh glass of spritzer. But Karen wasn't fully tamed. That evening, I checked my doorbell camera and saw her sneaking back under cover of night with a bag of lemons, apparently unripe, from my tree. She tossed them on the driveway like grenades. I froze the clip and flagged each lemon, numbering them like evidence. Next morning, I arranged them in neat rows on her doorstep with a note: "Unripe for thought. Enjoy tomorrow's harvest." She found them at dawn, raked them into her compost bin, and slid the note under her door. 2 days later, the HOA delivered a new notice: cease free events or face $500 daily fine. I stapled it to my juice cart frame and wrote underneath in bright marker, "Your dollars at work, see food bank donation totals." I'd already printed the first check, $500 raised. The notice read $500 fine, my check matched it, paid in full to the community food pantry. I delivered the check to Mrs. Garcia, who burst into tears and hugged me. By week's end, even Karen's staunchest allies, those once terrified of her clipboard, joined the juice bar crew. They ladled out glasses, wiped tables, and helped load leftovers into cars bound for shelters. Karen watched from inside, silent and thoughtful. That Friday, I planned my boldest move yet: a sunset cider roast, complete with spiced apple cider and fire pit storytelling. As dusk approached, I slid the final invitation under Karen's door. "Will you join us?" Neighbors buzzed with anticipation. The stage was set. Friday's sunset cider roast kicked off like a blockbuster premiere. I rolled my cart into Karen's driveway at 7 p.m., this time piled with caramel apple cider in insulated dispensers, cinnamon sticks for stirring, and mugs that read Co-op Crew. String lights twinkled overhead. Neighbors arrived in layers and scarves, young couples, grandparents with to-go flasks, even the high school football team in Letterman jackets. The fire pit crackled, and someone strung up a portable speaker playing soft acoustic covers. Karen watched from behind her living room drapes, just her eyes peeking out, glowing like wary owls. I waved a steaming mug at her window. She pressed her face against the glass, looked at the crowd, then looked away. I turned back to my cider roast rules. Nah, no clipboard, no complaints, just community. Laughter spilled across her pavement. At 8 p.m., the fun ratcheted up. We roasted marshmallows on skewers, dunked apple slices in spiced sugar, and swapped stories of the week's best juice concoctions. A volunteer poet, Mrs. Patel, recited a garden-themed limerick that had everyone rolling on the lawn. Karen's house trembled with the noise of shared joy. But Karen wasn't done scheming. At 8:30 p.m., my doorbell camera pinged. Motion detected. On screen, she crept onto her porch in a raincoat and knee-high boots, clutching a spray bottle labeled Apple Squeeze. She doused my cider dispensers with mystery liquid. I paused the playlist and watched her sprint back inside, puddles spreading across the asphalt. Next morning, I tasted a sample. Yuck. A hint of vinegar and regret. I dumped the batches and texted the neighborhood chat, "Sabotage strikes again. Time to stir." Volunteers showed up within the hour with replacement cider and fresh brews of pear ginger and pomegranate mint. We set new dispensers behind a low barrier of pumpkins and gourds labeled "Handle with Care." A sign read, Tampering may cause more harvest. Try it. Karen fumed through her blinds, but as the weekend rolled in, more neighbors pitched in. Tony the DJ played acoustic folk outside her window at noon. The Smith kids painted a mural on paper plates depicting happy fruit emojis. Our co-op group began a Protect the Produce fundraiser, selling homemade jam to install security lights, lit by solar power, of course. Karen's yard glowed all night. On Monday, I got a call from the city clerk. We heard about your community events. Do you need assistance with street closure permits? I shrugged. Sure, why not? The clerk approved a one-block road closure for next Saturday's Juice and Jazz event. The HOA tried to complain, but the permit clearly outranked any bylaw. Karen dropped her phone when she read it. Tuesday brought Karen's boldest move yet. She hired a local drone company to drop tiny flyers over the co-op beds, leaflets reading, "Do better, stop this madness." They fluttered down like misguided snow. Kids ran through them, kicking them into leaf piles. I gathered a stack, wrote on the back, "Join us next Friday, your invite," and taped them to her front door. That evening, a neighbor found a single rose planted in a co-op bed with a post-it. Peace offering? Karen. I smiled, picked the rose, and left it in a small vase at our community toolshed. The next morning, someone built a tiny Rose Fellow plaque around it. By midweek, the entire narrative had shifted. Neighbors texted, "Seems like Karen wants in." Even the HOA president dropped by for a quick sample of pear ginger cider, smiling with surprise. He said, "This feels like a real community space now." I nodded, offered him a demo of the new pomegranate dispenser. And Karen? She stayed behind her curtains, watching the co-op transform her asphalt into something warm, vibrant, and inclusive. Her final move, finally joining us for a cup, was still to come. The sun rose on Saturday, our first ever Juice and Jazz block party, and Maple Drive was electric. Barricades blocked off Karen's driveway, now our official juice bar stage. Neighbors string-hung ribbons set up folding chairs in rows facing the DJ booth and draped fairy lights overhead. The local jazz trio warmed up under Karen's front window, their saxophone melodies floating into her living room like an invitation. At 2 p.m., I rolled in with a cart stacked high with juice dispensers, mango passion fruit, strawberry basil, and the crowd favorite Sunburst Surprise. I taped a bright banner above, "Juice and Jazz, free for all." Karen peeked behind her curtain, eyes wary. I waved, held up a cup, and mouthed, "Come on out." Noon tip-off came when the first flute riff soared. Neighbors sipped juice, tapped feet, and nodded to the rhythm. Kids lined up for juice refills, grandparents swayed in their lawn chairs. Even the mail carrier stopped by, adjusting his uniform to the beat. Karen finally stepped outside in sunglasses, her arms crossed. She hovered at the edge of the driveway. I offered her a cup. She took it, uncertain. One sip, and her posture softened. The trio pivoted to, "What a wonderful world," and I saw her lips twitch into a ghost of a smile. As the afternoon sun dipped, I called everyone to gather around for the finale blend, a mystery mix poured from a silver pitcher. Neighbors hoisted their cups in unison. Karen raised hers too, clutching the cup like a peace treaty. Suddenly, old Mrs. Patel began a soft toast to community and kindness. Glasses chimed. Karen's cheeks glowed pink as dozens of neighbors called out, "Cheers, Karen!" She managed a quiet cheers back. After the final jazz set, the HOA president ambled over, clearing his throat. "On behalf of the board, I rescind every fine and complaint," he announced. "This event embodies the spirit our community strives for. We thank Mr. Tanner for turning conflict into unity." He handed me an official plaque. Maple Drive Community Champion 2025. The crowd erupted, clapping and whooping. Karen approached, footsteps hesitant on the asphalt we'd transformed. She extended her hand, a gesture none of us ever expected, and said, "I'm sorry for everything. I judged too fast. You've brought us together." Her eyes glistened in the string-like glow. I grasped her hand and replied, "We all got a little sour at first, but this community is sweeter now." With that, she stepped forward into the circle of neighbors, her clipboard tucked away for good. As twilight settled, I led the final tradition, the juice bar bonfire blessing. Everyone circled the fire pit, once Karen's complaint handout station, and tossed in dried citrus peels, sending sparks skyward. We held hands, closed our eyes, and shared one final cheer. To Maple Drive. Under the glow of embers and lanterns, strangers embraced, children giggled, and even Karen laughed. her first full laugh since the seizure notice. The trio played a soft closing number, and neighbors slowly drifted away, cups empty, hearts full. When the last guest left, I walked down the now quiet driveway, picking up stray cups. Karen joined me, carrying 2 final mugs of juice. We sat on her porch steps, sipping in companionable silence. "Thank you," she whispered. I shrugged. "Thank you for giving us the space." We clinked our mugs together, juice sloshing gently. Behind us, the Juice and Jazz banner flapped in the breeze like a promise that even the sourest disputes can ferment into the sweetest friendships. The end.